Welcome to Imperfectly Human, the podcast where we get real about mental health, messy growth, and being human one day at a time. I'm your host, Rachel, and together we're navigating life's chaos with honesty, compassion, and a little humor. Let's get into it. Hello. Welcome back, friends. So this one's going to be a little bit different because if you have been here for a while, then you know that this podcast used to be called Perfectly Imperfect Me 365. And that name represented a season of my life, like a season focused on growth, self-awareness, and just learning how to live without chasing perfection, which I'm still working on. However, and that part of me hasn't gone anywhere. Let's just be completely transparent. But over time, something became clear. And the conversations that I was having, whether it be with my clients, with athletes, with just people who are navigating marriage, divorce, burnout, and identity shifts, were all just like circling around the same core issue. And that was strength. And I'm not talking like motivational strength. I'm not talking Instagram strength. I'm not even talking about the push through and just bury it kind of strength, but real mental strength, the kind that just shows up when your performance is high and your relationships are struggling. And so you can run 26 miles, but avoid hard conversations. And you can look disciplined in public, but feel completely overwhelmed in private. And you're strong everywhere except where it really matters most. And so I've spent nearly 3 decades as a therapist working with high performers and athletes and perfectionistic thinking. I've completed Ironman. I've been married. I've been divorced. I've been remarried. I've run 16 full marathons. I've run 30 plus half marathons. I've parented through transitions, and I've watched people succeed in the areas where they're seen while they're quietly struggling in the areas where they're not. And what I've learned is this, is that strength that only works in one arena eventually collapses. So if you're mentally tough in sports, but emotionally reactive at home, that's incomplete strength. If you are resilient in your career, but you lose yourself in relationships, that's incomplete strength. And if you pride yourself on discipline, but avoid vulnerability, that's also incomplete strength. And so this podcast needed a name that matched where these conversations were already going. Imperfectly Human reflects that more accurately. Because no matter how disciplined, how successful, or high performing you are still human. You still get overwhelmed, you still react, you still avoid, you still have patterns that just don't always serve you. And none of that cancels out your strength. But this is a story forward podcast, kind of like the pay it forward, but I want to do story forward because you're going to hear lessons from endurance training that translate into relationships. What life lessons, including divorce, teach about emotional responsibility. Why high performers often overfunction in relationships. How discipline can actually become an emotional avoidance. And how to build strength that actually transfers from sport to home to identity. And if you're an athlete, this is going to resonate. If you're a high performer who looks strong on the outside but feels stretched thin in your personal life, this is going to resonate. And if you're just a human navigating pressures, expectations, relationships, and growth, this will also resonate. And so, like always, this podcast is not therapy because let's be honest, I needed to do something that was like really joyful and didn't require me to do a lot of thinking. And yes, that doesn't mean, or I should say, no, that doesn't mean that my therapy work is not enjoyable because it is one of my babies and it's my pride and joy. And it's a lot of work at times. So just remember that this podcast is not therapy. It's not diagnosis. It's not treatment. It's just conversations, reflections, sometimes skill building through the lens of like lived experiences and performance psychology. So if you were here for Perfectly Imperfect Me 365, thank you from the bottom of my heart because it's been over 3 years and I've gotten more consistent and I'm really proud of myself for that. And that foundation built this. Imperfectly Human is a more accurate reflection of what this space has actually become. And so going forward, every episode will come back to one question. Is your strength working everywhere in your life or only where it's rewarded? And that's what we're here to explore. So if this direction resonates with you, Stay with me. I'd greatly appreciate it. We're going to talk about strength in sports, strength in relationships, strength in identity, and what happens when those don't line up. This has been Imperfectly Human. I am your host, Rachel, and I really appreciate you sticking around, joining me, and stay tuned for the new journey that is just growing. Have a great day.